Hello everyone, in today's video I'm going to be painting these simple flowers using a fineliner and using the Derwent paint pen set, Inktense paint pen set, the pastel shades. So I'm using a wet brush just with some clean water, and I'm basically painting in the shapes of the petals with the water. So it's very light on camera, but you can see that I have got shapes of petals on the paper. And then I am going over with some of the pinks and letting that move around with the water, and also using my brush to help the paint move around on the wet areas that I painted with the water. So I am using a watercolor paper for this because I am going to be adding a lot of water, and you can see I'm moving the paint around on those areas where I want it to blend together, and I'm also adding a variation of pink and purples as well, to get a bit more dimension in or a variation in the colors for the flower. Now this is a simple flower. You can paint, if you don't have these paints, you can paint it with any watercolors that you have, or even inks. You can water them down and you can use them in the same way. You don't have to have this particular paint set, but this is what I'm using for this project. But you can use, as I said, watercolors. You can use gouache, even you can even use or like watered down gouache, or you can use ink as well. Now I did the same thing for the second flower. I've painted in with some water just the petals of the flowers, and then I went in with a darker blue and I started adding in some of those the paint to the paper or to the wet areas, and then I'm using the brush to just move it about and get it to spread around the entire piece. So you can see I am just letting the paint move on its own, but helping it along just to get a bit more spread about in more of the shape of the petals. And you can see I'm adding a bit of a darker color of the blue just to the center of the flower and the petals. Now I'm going to let these completely dry before working on them with the fine liners, because if I try to use a fine liner on it wet like this, you could damage the paper, as well as you're not going to get much of those line work with the fine liner if the paper is still wet. So you could use a hair dryer to speed up drying time, or you could just let it dry and do something else, or you could just maybe decide to add an additional maybe an element or leaf to the piece. Like here, while I was waiting, I just decided to add some leaves to the flowers. This is not a hyper realistic painting. This is not something that's going to take a lot of effort. Anybody can do it. It's a very simple flower, very simple flowers, and nothing really complicated. It's a wet and wet technique, and I'm just basically painting in flowers. I'm not using any reference photo. It's just using my mind, just putting in the shape of petals or flowers and then adding color to it, and that's it. There's no I'm not really having to think really hard about it or really concentrate on it. Just adding what comes to my mind, little strokes of color, little strokes of the leaves, and just using the paintbrush to just create these little leaves around the entire piece, and then just to try to create a composition where the little leaves are balanced together with the larger leaves for the entire piece. Now once again, this is a simple painting. You can use anything you've got. I'm using the Inktense paint pen set by Derwent, the pastel colors, but you can use watercolors as well. They work perfectly for this. Ink as well can work too, although ink can be darker. You'll have to really dilute it down with water to make it lighter, but watercolors, gouache, and even this paint set Inktense will work perfectly. So I checked up and tested that the paper is dry before I started working on the line work. You can see I'm not really going according to the exact shape of the petals. The lines are going a little bit around, they wobbly, they wonky, they all going all over the place. I'm just adding some details to create some definition to the flower and really bring the flower to life. I'm not looking at the exact where the paint is for the petals. I'm just creating the basic lines around feathers. So sorry, for feathers, around the petals, so that I can just identify where those are the petals, and I've just got all of them outlined. Same with the leaves. I'm just going with each one and adding line work around them. I'm not really following exactly every part of the green and making sure I cover it completely. I'm leaving some of those just randomly, just drawing lines around them, and that is it. So now I'm adding just a bit of shadows, or not shadows, but just a little bit of extra lines onto the flower to create a bit more dimension to the piece. And now I'm going to go in and work on the second one. Like I said, wait for it to be completely dry before working on it. So now you can see I'm starting to add the center portions of the second flower, and I'm adding the little dots to the ends of those little centers, as well as just going around the edges again. Like I said, I'm not going in detail. I'm not trying to follow the paint lines exactly. I'm just going in and adding details as I see fit, and as my pen flows, I just let it flow. So as I said, this is a very simple project. Anybody can do it. It's simple, it's easy, and you can use what you have. There's nothing complicated about it. The only thing is that you do need a paper that's thick enough to withstand water. You can see now I'm adding the leaves for the second flower as well, not going according to the exact shape of the flower or shape of the paint that I put down, just keeping the image and keeping the shape of the leaf and then putting in the lines. And basically just creating a bit more pattern and design with the leaves. Then I just decided to just join all those leaves to the flowers with some stems, and there's the completed flower painting. So I guess that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, don't forget to like and share. Feel free to comment below, and don't forget to subscribe. Till the next one. Bye.